So good morning to all of you. My name is Shepherdson, and with me today, I have William Hioe and Isa, where I will be speaking with them about the 2024 Gen AI data privacy trends. Now, this year, we decided to talk about data privacy and how it relates to generative AI, as opposed to every year. We've been doing this for 5 years, where we talk solely about the trends with regards to data privacy or data privacy. So before we go on, let me ask William, are you ready, William?
Yes, I'm ready.
Isa, how about you?
All good to go, Kevin.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, what I'd like to do here is to give you a quick summary of the 5 Gen AI and data protection trends that we are going to be sharing with you. And as you can see, the 5 trends are that Gen AI will go mainstream in business productivity, and we want everyone to be able to see the implications on what that means to your business. I'll be talking about the due diligence needed in adopting Gen AI apps, which many companies have not really done the due diligence. And I want everyone to reflect on the content creation to content generation that is happening because of Gen AI. And we need to be conscious that the regulators are also looking at AI software, and we see frameworks and regulations being looked at. And finally, we see that Gen AI will require new skills. So before I start, what I'd like to do is I'd like to get everyone to go to the menti.com. And as you can see on the screen, I would like you to go to menti.com, put in the code 2145005. And I want you to do a very honest assessment in terms of whether your organization is using ChatGPT or some form of chat. Yeah, similar to ChatGPT. It could be Bart, it could be whatever. And you can see that your answers could be yes for the fact that if it's officially implemented, including Copilot, it's not, and whether it is yes but unofficially implemented. Yeah. So can you folks just put in your own answers based on your real scenarios? Okay, so we got 1. Okay, so we now see that you are using it, but it's unofficially implemented, means your bosses have not said no. All right, so let's wait for the rest to quickly go in and put in your answers. I just wait for a minute while you guys put in. Okay, so we got 1. One of you are using it officially. We got 2. So I'm going to wait for a few more. Yeah. I hope to get at least 30 of you. So for all of you who are tuning in right now, can you just put in your votes? And I'm going to refer back to this chart, this survey. Yeah. In the meantime, William, what's going on in your mind when looking at this?
Yeah, this is just what we have expected right now because of the nascent stage of introduction of this new capability. We will expect a lot of people using it on their own to try out before getting some official direction or official policy from organizations on whether they sanction the use of such a tool.
Right, only 15 of you. Look, about what? Quite a number of you actually here. Okay, I'll wait for it to hit about 20 to 30, and then I will move to the next screen. So ladies and gentlemen, let's use this as an interactive exercise, and then we can link back to the trends that we are seeing, right? Again, gentle reminder, go to menti.com, put in your code 2145005. I'm going to wait for it to cross at least 20, yeah? And then I'm going to move on. So we can see the majority of you are using some form of ChatGPT, but it is not officially implemented. All right, so I'll wait for a few seconds, and then I want all of you to do the same in the next screen. Okay, I'll wait for 25. William, wait for 25 and then I'll move on, yeah?
Okay.
Okay, looks like everyone is just happy putting your answer. So let me move on to the next one. So if you are using ChatGPT, what type of ChatGPT accounts are now being used? Is it paid? In this case, paid by the company? Or in your case, you decide to invest because you see the value of ChatGPT, so you are paying on your own personal basis, or you're using a free personal account. Ladies and gentlemen, please put in your answers. So ladies and gentlemen, take a look at the distribution of your answers. And again, we are talking about the use of Gen AI in your organization. And I'm going to use these stats here to talk about some of the predictions that we're seeing. And hopefully it matches the numbers that you guys are sharing on the screen. Okay. So again, notice that the bulk of the user, although this is a small sample size, they're all using free personal accounts. Yeah. Mr. Isa, any quick thoughts from you before I move on to the next question? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's great. I think that there's been increasing adoption of Gen AI by the use of ChatGPT, but I wonder how many of the participants here as well are aware of the risks involved, and whether they are aware as well that, you know, they shouldn't be putting in certain information and such.
All right, that's something that we're supposed to tell everybody, yeah? So we actually spilled the beans too early, yeah? But valid point. Take a look at the free personal accounts, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to reference this as we move on. Final question for all of you, yeah? Let's take a look at the next one. If you're using some form of ChatGPT, which of the 10 value areas are you using ChatGPT for? Take a look. Do you use it to write marketing and sales copies? Do you use it to summarize, proofread? Are you using it for customer support? Are you using it to auto-generate? You can click more than one, ladies and gentlemen, right? But let's capture the users of ChatGPT, yeah, in your organization, yeah? So put in your answers. There were about 20 odd of you. Just read through and just choose the one that resonates the most with you. And it's something that you think that you would use very often, or that's the value that you derive from ChatGPT. Okay, so we see a number of you using it for a bunch of reasons. Yeah, and now we are looking at the distribution of the 10 value areas. So, ladies and gentlemen, as you fill in this survey, notice that there are 10 value areas which I will quickly go through as we cover the predictions that we have on the trends that we are seeing with regards to Gen AI. Yeah. So, William, what's going on in your mind, man? You take a look.
Yeah, looking at the inputs that have come in, something that strikes me as interesting is that these users who have tried their hands on using ChatGPT, they are also quite cautious in what kind of applications they are using. So far, no single person has indicated they use ChatGPT to do automatic or automated processing. 0 for auto-generate, auto-complete data tables, or automated accounting and sorting. Yeah, so also it's quite interesting in the sense that people are still quite cautious in how they're going to use ChatGPT.
Fantastic. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your feedback. Now let's try to correlate what you have shared with us with what I want to talk about today. And as I go through the 5 trends, I will correlate it back to the survey that we just did. So trend number 1, ladies and gentlemen, be prepared. Last year, we saw Gen AI introduced to the world. It was a global phenomenon. Everyone was excited by the possibilities. This year, you will see it go more into mainstream, especially in the area of business productivity. And I want to remind everyone that there are 10 specific areas of value creation. But guess what? Every one of these areas, there are also risks and constraints. So to elaborate this trend very quickly, if your organization is just looking at AI as only a technology, then there needs to be a mindset shift. You need to look at it from an enterprise initiative. If you look at this quadrant here, this is what we call the AI opportunity radar. This was in the keynote from Gartner, which I borrowed, which I thought was very relevant. You can see the impact of AI in terms of everyday AI, which I will discuss, and game-changing AI, meaning that AI will basically be a game changer for your organization. And take a look at the 4 specific areas. For external facing, you got the front office, you have products and services, and obviously at the back, from a internal perspective, you got back office and your core capabilities. Yeah. And if everyone is aware that there's now an AI opportunity radar, let me just make some sense of what's going on today. If you look at everyday AI, it is now possible with office productivity apps. A few of you would already have been exposed to Microsoft Copilot. And for those of you who are using Google, you are now having Gen AI, or specifically chatbot features within your own organization while you use Microsoft, or in this case, Google, for office productivity. So what I'd like everyone to see here is to be aware that now there's an opportunity to create value specifically to enhance business productivity. And the question to all of you who are tuning in today, when you tell someone, hey, I can create value with Gen AI, do you specifically know where are the areas that Gen AI can create value that helps your organization enhance business productivity or even be a game changer? So on the left-hand side, ladies and gentlemen, are the department-specific users. On the right-hand side are the general users. And just now, we got a glimpse of what you folks were looking at. But before I move on, William, if you look at on the left-hand side, which is the one that strikes you the most, which you are watching? Yeah?
Yeah, the one that interests me is number 3, really. Provide programming code, scripts and formulas, etc. Because being in the IT industry for many, many years, so that seems to me is quite intriguing that we can now use generative AI to check your programming code, or sometimes even cover codes. But therein lies also the risk that the algorithms that we generated, the logic may not be right. So yet on Kevin will talk more about testing, the assurance, make sure that whatever output is generated from Gen AI.
Did we lose William? Isa, how about you, Isa? What about your thoughts on this?
For me, the task that I find probably will be very useful or applicable to my scope is to summarize, edit, and analyze documents on the right-hand side. Especially since we have to review, as part of the legal team, we have to read and review quite a lot of documents, cases, judgments, decisions, and so on. So the function or the capability of the chatbot to provide good summaries, and of course with guidance and checks, is very useful.
So ladies and gentlemen, take a look. My question to all of you is, do you really know how to use each and every single one of these users? Do you know how to perform or use whatever software to gain the best out of these 10 areas? So that's the value add, ladies and gentlemen. But I'd like to just point out to you that on the other side, there's also risks and constraints. And I just picked 3 departments. And for those of you in compliance, those of you who are doing risk management or in data protection, take a look at the potential issues that can arise with regards to marketing. And I'm not going to go through in detail, but you could see that in generating new ideas, new sales copy, there could be a lot of exaggeration, misrepresentation. Campaigns could be targeted in specific demographics because you've got all of the intelligence here. Notice that in the chat conversation, you can profile the individual, you can profile the prospects, and you could do it without consent. And there's also security issues because you're going to be loading lots of customer data into the system, for example. William, are you back online?
Yes, I wasn't sure whether I could be heard earlier. Because there's no feedback. So right. Can you hear me now?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay, right.
What are your thoughts on the customer service, especially now that everyone wants to do a chatbot, everyone wants to load their own customer support information and create a self-help with Gen AI?
See, the problem with Gen AI tools today is that they are very hungry for content, for knowledge, for information, to be able to generate the kind of outputs and results that users expect. So sometimes in order to provide customer service, the users may inadvertently load their actual live customers' data without realizing that all these things goes into training the model, and whatever you share or input into the system, it remains in the system. So there could be a risk of exposing sensitive personal data of customers without getting the necessary consent first. And once this the data goes into the wrong hands, people can use it for unscrupulous means.
Thank you for that. Ladies and gentlemen, later I'm going to show you a quick demo of how HR scams are now even easier with Gen AI, right? For now, I want everyone to be familiar with some of the issues that you could be seeing: ethical, privacy, and security issues. Isa, quick thoughts from you, man. We have presentations where people are just using it, a single button, they click on it, they are getting auto-generated presentations, but the issue here is the data may be may not be accurate, and you are also pumping in your own business data into the system. And the same issue also haunts us when we leverage on ChatGPT for specialized topics or even legal for that matter. Quick thoughts from you, Isa.
I think so across the board, whenever anyone over relies on ChatGPT or any other generative AI without doing due checks of their own, I think they're going to run into problems because the chatbot, unfortunately, it is not trained for accuracy, as it is the foundation model. It is trained to give you plausible output. So if you rely solely on the chatbot to give you strategies, it's a bit of a hit or miss at this point.
And we're going to elaborate this further because this brings us to the next trend. Now, we saw the 10 value areas of Gen AI, and we just alerted everyone that there's also ethical, privacy, and security risks. So the next trend is that organizations should do more due diligence if you are going to be adopting Gen AI apps. Now, I want to remind everyone, if you go back to the survey that we just did, you will notice that a lot of you are actually using ChatGPT, but you're using the free version. So we want to remind everyone there are 3 broad areas of software applications that you need to be aware of, and let us explain to you. So the 3 broad categories that you should be looking at, obviously, you have what we call core apps. These are companies like OpenAI. You know them as ChatGPT. There's Midjourney. Obviously, there are new companies like Anthropic. And then you have the usual players like Microsoft and Google. Now, these are the companies that develop their own unique technologies. They do their own research, and they provide custom APIs. That stands for Application Programming Interfaces, and developer tools for others to use their solutions. And that brings us to the second set of what we call the clone apps. Now, you should be aware because these are the new startups, and they can also be teams or individual programmers. And what they do is they utilize the APIs of the core apps. And examples are, you can see some of you are familiar with Tommy, Gamma, and a whole bunch of new apps are appearing every day in your App Store or your Google Play Store. The third category, which will see us experience Gen AI faster than ever, would be what we call combination apps. These are the existing popular apps that you are seeing, that you are already having or installed in your system. And we covered that earlier on. Even Zoom, even Salesforce.com. All of these apps are already incorporating chatbots. So what I'm going to be doing now is I'm going to go through each and every single one of these categories and show you potential issues that could haunt us, and which explains why we need to do more due diligence. Yeah. Let's look at the first one. Use of core apps and Gen AI technology. I want everyone to be aware that when you ask your questions and when you get an answer, ChatGPT is the one that actually pulls information out from a bunch of sources. If you take a look here, the information is extracted from Common Crawl, that's the internet, and web text is Reddit. These are your discussion forums. Books 1, Books 2, these are your scientific and your literary books. They're supposed to be books that are in the public domain, and there's Wikipedia, for example, right? So I want everyone to just take note in terms of how, in this case, ChatGPT extracts the information. Now, in the past, when you go to Google search, if I were to ask you who determines the truth, if you're using Google search, you are the one who determines the truth, because you look at the search results and you choose what the answers are or what the right answers are for you. But when you go to a chatbot, it is the chatbot that decides its response to you. Now, this is where I want everyone to understand that for the chatbots to work, it has to come from some training data set. And this is where I want Isa to explain what has happened. Isa, over to you.
So I think the participants here, some of them might be familiar with the legal storm that is happening in the US against OpenAI, who are the founders of ChatGPT. So numerous lawsuits are being filed against them for copyright infringement. The article that you see in front of you is one recent example. So what has been happening is copyright infringement claims have been made, and the New York Times, what they have done is they have managed to coax out of ChatGPT almost about 100 instances where full passages or text from their own articles have been copied almost word for word. So they have put forward a claim, and a fairly strong claim probably, that there has been some form of copyright infringement.
Thanks for that. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you go back, can you see Books 1 and Books 2? They have not revealed what the sources are, and there are potential issues here in the training data set. Let's move on from ownership to IP issues to leakage of corporate data. This has happened. I'm sure you guys have already seen the famous Samsung's case, where there were 3 instances where data was shared with ChatGPT. One was a transcript of a training meeting, and the staff was also using ChatGPT to write code and to view the code, right? So this was a big issue that was also brought up. And another thing that's happened is, take a look at this. There was also an incident that the chat histories were also leaked, and we wonder, could there be a day where the system could be hacked and all our conversational histories could be exposed? Yeah. And more importantly, and this is where I'm going to be asking William, this is what happened late last year. And William, would you like to share your thoughts? I mean, we combined the fact that we saw the issue where the chat histories were leaked, and now we see the CEO dismissal and reinstatement in such a short time. What are your quick thoughts on from a corporate governance perspective?
Yeah. Just going back to looking at the two previous cases of leaked knowledge or leaked confidential information. If we look at what we do currently in the physical world as opposed to what the generative AI tools can do, currently when we do any search, when we extract any information from the internet, from different sources, we are the gatekeeper, just to reinforce what Kevin has mentioned earlier. And now we just leave it to the tool to decide on its own as the gatekeeper of what is the truth and what is trusted information. So I guess in the case of this OpenAI saga in the boardroom, the board members were very, very nervous that one day the ChatGPT might take over the world in terms of generating a lot of fake news, a lot of false information. And these were mainly businessmen, the non-techie people who were on the board. So they sounded the alarm bell, and they wanted to rein in the growth and the innovative development of ChatGPT. So as a result, they sacked the CEO. Then after a few days, there was a big turnaround, and they realized that Microsoft was quick to jump onto the bandwagon because Microsoft saw the potential of OpenAI, and they being the largest shareholder, wanted to buy over the entire staff and employees of OpenAI. So which means that overnight, the whole company will be under the jurisdiction of Microsoft. So the board had a rethink, and then they got back the CEO. And this is a history, and we don't know what is going to happen next. Because one of the things that this CEO had as a vision is a very, very privacy intrusive, highly intelligent tool for the future that is going to change the way we do things, change the way human beings behave.
Thank you for that. So, ladies and gentlemen, these are all question marks they were asking, right? Because these incidents have happened. Isa, what about your thoughts, man? This is a case that a lot of our participants will be very, very familiar, but it goes to show on the reliance, in this case, hallucinations, and the issue of potentially creating inaccurate or in many cases biased or discriminatory content.
So this case, I believe, is now famous, or perhaps more accurately, infamous, of these two lawyers in the States who submitted a brief to the court, and then they cited cases which in fact were non-existent. And the reason for that was they used ChatGPT to create their brief. And with the citations that ChatGPT gave them, they asked ChatGPT, "Are you sure these citations are correct?" And ChatGPT said, "Yes, they are correct." And not just that, but ChatGPT gave very convincing supposed references to databases, legal databases, actual valid existing legal databases like Lexis and Westlaw. So these lawyers, unfortunately, did not do any further checks from there. And after submission, the opposing lawyers did their own checks and found that, hey, these cases are non-existent. So these two lawyers got into quite a bit of trouble. And more importantly, their names, I suppose, are now firmly entrenched in the history of the development of generative AI.
So, ladies and gentlemen, what we have done is we've just talked about the issues relating to the core apps. These are the guys who are pioneering the technology. But let's look at the second category, the clone apps. Now, as you will see, all these apps are made possible because they leverage the core apps, they leverage the APIs, the technology from all of the pioneers that we are familiar with, like ChatGPT. But you will see that there are actually questionable privacy and ethical practices. So I want everyone to get a feel of how these apps look like. If you were to go to Google Play and you type in the word ChatGPT, you will see a lot of different variants of ChatGPT. And if we were to play a game, ladies and gentlemen, take a look at all of the ChatGPT variants in the Play Store. Can you identify which one is the real ChatGPT? Take a look at the answer. I'll just give you 10 seconds to identify it, and we will reveal the answer to you. Okay, so if you're ready, this is the real ChatGPT. Now, what's our point, ladies and gentlemen? There are tons of new apps that are being introduced every day. And these apps are being downloaded by individuals as well as corporates, depending on their users, right? You find ChatGPT for any kind of tasks that you can think of. So what we did last year was we actually examined 100 apps that we downloaded from the market. And we actually looked at the apps from a GDPR perspective. And we concluded that a majority of these apps, they actually don't comply with GDPR, and they don't even tell you anything about the AI being used, which, as we will talk about in more detail, that will be a requirement under the EU AI Act. Isa, would you like to quickly just share with everyone what we have discovered and what actually this means? Yeah.
So it's very interesting because, as William mentioned, this is the beginning stages, the proliferation of new tech, right? So everybody is racing to be the first to put their app on the market. But unfortunately, what happens is this phenomenon known as the race to the bottom of the barrel. So when people just put out their apps, they develop it as quickly as possible. They just put on a slapdash sort of privacy policy. They don't even think through it very carefully. Some of them may even be using third-party developers and so on. They may not know exactly what is going on into their app. So whatever they put out there may or may not be representative of what their app is actually doing in terms of trackers, in terms of what they're collecting, in terms of your personal data and so on. So when we checked, we found that all these things are lacking in many of the apps.
So you can see a lot of them are from startups, and they might not be familiar with proper privacy or even ethical practices. Yeah. Isa, your quick comments on this transparency here, where later when we talk about the EU AI Act, they are supposed to be transparent in terms of the AI models being used.
Yeah, so I suppose this is the pre-EU AI Act era apps. And once more stringent regulations come into place, we can expect that many of these apps will face a lot of scrutiny. And they either have to change their practices or they may just be moved out of the market altogether.
Thanks. Now, let's move on very quickly. Now, what we also did was we also looked at the specific ChatGPT clone apps, the one that we saw earlier on. Yeah. And what we did was we actually looked at their data safety declarations. Okay. For the Apple users, you might look at that as Apple nutrition labels. But look at the screen here. 68% of the apps said that they don't share any data with third parties. Now, how can this be? Because you are ChatGPT. You are a variant of ChatGPT. You are using their application programming interface. So therefore, you have to use their API, and the data is being passed to you. But yet, take a look. They say they don't share the data. They don't collect any data. And security practices, take a look at how this is just distributed. Now, if you actually analyze the app itself, let me give you one instance that what they say and what they do, they don't match at all. Take a look at this particular app. All right, it's a variant of GPT. It says it doesn't collect any data. But yet, when you go into the app and you look at the specific settings, it's as though you're giving the entire phone to the developer. He can control your mic, he can control your camera, and all of that. And here we are blindly just saying, I consent, without understanding the consequence, right? So, ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the second trend, and reiterating the message that you should do due diligence if you are going to be using any of these apps, whether it's the core apps, whether it's the clone apps, or whether it's the combination apps, which is your existing apps that now will have ChatGPT Gen AI features. Now that brings us very quickly to trend 3. what we're going to see is the transition from content creation to content generation. I'm going to explain what this means, okay? But take a look at the keyword, content creation and content generation. And it's because of this transition, we're going to see more privacy, security, and ethical related issues. Let me go into detail, ladies and gentlemen. If you look at it today, we could just, with a click of a button, generate text, images, and audio, right? We could do text to speech, text to image, text to a video. It's even possible. So there's no need to look at manual creation. So we could generate a PowerPoint presentation instantly. We don't even have to write it. With what we call AIGP, right? Now we are looking at content being produced, AIGC, AI content generated material. It's efficient. You can customize anything you want. It's cost effective, very cheap. And obviously, as you can see from the apps, there's all kinds of cool, innovative apps that have appeared in the market. So ladies and gentlemen, this is the world of AI content generation. Unfortunately, we also see the negative side. Yeah. William Isa, do any of you want to comment on this and maybe even talk about the motivation behind why this guy did it? He could just generate content easily, but he faked the whole news. And this is the first enforcement that we have seen from China.
Yeah, this was a case, very interestingly, that China actually made it quite public that they actually arrested people for spreading fake news in a country where even the citizens are not sure what news is real and what news is fake. Yeah, so I guess it could be the fake news or something against the central government or the Communist Party of China. So that's why the authorities had to put a stop to it. In China, the authorities have a very tight rein and tight control over what kind of information their citizens can have access to.
And the other reason is eyeballs. We have lots of influencer. They want to attract attention, so they create fake news. And we have another case here when editor-in-chief was fired. And what she did was she actually created an AI-generated interview with Schumacher, which, as you all know, he has been ill. And this editor was fired. And they had to apologize to the family. And again, you can see privacy issues. There was no consent. That was, they didn't get any consent from the family when they created this fake interview with all the images in there as well. Yeah. So this is something that we need to be conscious about with content generation from Gen AI. But what was intriguing is another case where if you take a look here, this was when an AI generated poll was complemented an article. So what happened was there was an article where a woman, she actually died. This is the lady, Lily Jamie. She died. She was found dead with serious head injuries at a school, right? And what happened was there was an AI bot that just read the content, and I put the word human out of the loop. So obviously nobody supervised, yeah, because it's a syndicated service. No one cared about it. But look what it did. The poll created this question: what do you think is the reason behind the woman's death? Is it murder, accident, or suicide? This got a lot of people upset. The question, ladies and gentlemen, that we would like to throw to all of you, as you use ChatGPT, whether you use it as, in this case, a automated poll, or you use it as question and answer, or you use it to generate a presentation, do you actually check the content, or do you take it wholesale? Okay, so this is on all of us who are generating content. But we mustn't forget that the criminals out there, the scammers out there, can also use the same technology for as you can see, job-related scams. So I'd like to do a very quick demo, and then William, you and Isa can comment on it. The first thing I like to do is to do a fake job listing. So I want everyone to imagine that I am going to create a whole scam from scratch. I first start with putting a job listing that is fake so that I can use it to attract my victims, okay? So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to go to our tool, which we have created called Capabara. And as you can see here, my first task is to do a fake job list generator. So let's go inside there. And here's what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to use our tool to generate a fake job post. And you can imagine this technology is now available to everyone. So let's do a marketing analyst position. Language, let's do it in English. Sector, William, Isa, anyone? Let's do education, yeah?
Yep.
Country, Singapore. And I'm going to generate the fake job post now. And ladies and gentlemen, in the past, they would have to analyze the job position and all that. Now, what we could do is we could simply auto-generate it. And I now have my fake company called Knowledge Infinity, as you can see here, Knowledge Infinity. And look at the job post. It gives me the company background. It's a leading educational company specializing in learning for students. And it generates the responsibilities of the marketing analyst. It even gives me the requirements. And obviously, I could put in an application form. So this is just representative. And this is how easy it is for me to create a job post, right? And then the next thing that I might want to do is, now let's target somebody. So let's go back to my list, and I'm going to create a phishing email. As you can see from my screen, I'm going to go in, and let's imagine that I cut and paste someone else's LinkedIn information to feed the AI model so that it's able to write the phishing email. So that's what I'm doing. I put in the victim's name. Give me a victim's name. Let's say it's John Tan, right? Sorry, John Tan. And all I simply do is I cut and paste the CV information. I put in the language, and what was the company's name just now? Knowledge
Infinity.
Infinity, yes. And then I put the sender's name, Peter To, whatever, right? So later we will create Peter To's face for you, and let's generate it. And as you can see, automatically the model is able to generate the phishing email solely based from the information, from Knowledge Infinity, in this case, the CV. So take a look. Hi, John Tan. I hope this email finds you well, right? So recently, one of your former colleagues from Sandbag. Why? Because Sandbag is where the candidates, one of the companies that the candidate used to work, recommended you as a strong candidate. And he goes on to point out to that job position, attracts the person, and asks the person to apply for that job because the person comes highly recommended. Now, this is happening, ladies and gentlemen, in the industry today, right? So we want to warn everyone, be very, very careful. Always look at the red flags, the sender's email. Okay, in this case, we will not see a lot of grammatical errors, but you should always verify the sender. So folks, can you see what I'm doing? I created the job post. I created the phishing email. Now let's create the website to fool the phishing email. I mean, to fool the person that I'm targeting in the phishing email. So let's go back and now create the fake website. So let's create a fake website. And this is in education, as you saw earlier on. And it's in Singapore. And Isa, I think it's Knowledge
Infinity.
Right? And I just generate the website. So ladies and gentlemen, as you see everything being assembled, I'm actually showing you end to end how a full scam is created from first creating the job post, then writing a phishing email and then directing them to a website, and then I can scam you, right? So take a look how fast the website is generated. Obviously, this would be fantastic for anyone who wants to create a website, but the same technology can also be used, right, to scam somebody. So, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Knowledge Infinity. And as you can see from the website, it creates everything for you, including the services with the Enroll Now button, with this online learning platform, even down with testimonials and all of that. And finally, William, what should we do? Shall we create John Doe? How does John Doe look like? Yeah?
Yep.
So now let's create the fake John Doe, and we should then use him as an image. So I'm now going to create an image. William Isa, give me the suggestion. A 50-year-old
Distinguished looking gentleman.
Chinese, distinctive
Distinguished looking with
gentleman.
learned spectacles.
Okay, gentleman with learned spectacles. Yes.
Yeah. Dressed in a full suit.
Dressed in full black suit, white suit.
Black suit. Black
Okay.
suit with
Pinstripe, Kevin.
What?
Pinstripe.
With
pinstripe suit. Yeah.
wow, you guys are with not black but thin stripe.
Pinstripe. Yeah.
Pinstripe.
Color? Any color?
Pinstripe. P-I-N. Pinstriped. That's very formal. Yeah. Used by civil servants in the UK.
Okay, no color.
Suit.
Okay.
A dark, just a dark full pinstripe suit. SUIT. Yeah. Dark.
Okay.
Pinstripe suit.
With what? Red tie. Okay.
Red tie. Okay.
Yeah.
So we could do that, and later I will quickly show you guys an avatar of how you could create the whole image, right? And so I want everyone to be very conscious on the issue of content generation. Wow. This
Not bad. Wow.
actually used. Yeah.
Oh, but it's not pinstripe.
Yeah. Okay, but there's only one stripe here, right?
Right.
So, folks, can y'all see the implications behind just using the generator technology, where we could create the fake job post, the phishing email, the fake website, and as you will see, besides just faking the person, I could clone the person's voice. And I'd like to very quickly play you a quick deepfake video. Some of you may have already seen it on Channel News Asia and Channel 5, where we invited the press to come and show them how easy it is to create a fake avatar. So our scam story continues with this very, very interesting video clip. So I'm just going to move and just play you only a short portion of it to continue the scam production that we were doing just now.
Deepfakes in Singapore have jumped 5 times in the last year alone, according to a report by fraud prevention firm SumSub. Now, authorities here have been warning that these could be misused to commit cybercrimes. Nadira Zaidi tells us how accessible the technology has become. Will you read this?
Just flip it anyway. Yeah.
I'm used to speaking in front of the camera. Hi, my name is Nadira, and I'm actually here to learn more about generative AI. But I was not prepared for what happened next. The AI software quickly learned my speech patterns to generate this. Hey Nadira, your instant avatar is ready. Feel free to create videos with it. Also, click the feedback button to share what you think. Hope you enjoy. With this, I can put words in my mouth, quite literally. So I'm writing the AI a script, pretending to be a marketing professional looking to hire people for my company. It takes just another click of a button for my deepfake avatar to speak a language I don't.
嗨，我叫纳迪拉，我是一名营销专家。
希望为我的公司雇佣5名新员工。您的技能符合我们的需求。Oh my god. Okay. Too easy to use and misuse.
The scammers can also use it to their advantage. And if you think about the fact that we are now talking about all crimes, but new techniques. So if I was a scammer, I would use Gen AI to create a fake job post. And then I take someone else's LinkedIn information and I do phishing. So I will target the person. Okay, I'm going to pause here. So that's exactly what we did. Yeah, very quickly, William or Isa, any quick comments before we move on to the next part that people should be aware of?
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to draw attention to there's really nothing mystical about this. Even without Gen AI, people are already creating all kinds of scams, like this job scam, for example. But the thing that the generative AI has made a difference is that it allows the scammer to create all these and generate all these new content in a matter of minutes. Yeah. So previously, if they had to do all these things manually to research what the actual words to use, to get the right voices and so on, it would take them maybe days, and that would be a strong motivator for them to stand out the scam. And now with a click of a button or few buttons, they can generate all these in minutes. What's stopping them before generating tons and tons of scams?
So folks, take a look, right? So these are what's happening because of the ability to generate the data. But I also want to warn everyone, there's a new threat that we're seeing. We call this adversarial prompts. So as we have all of the chatbots, right, giving up generated responses, there's something called adversarial prompt. This is the intentional manipulation of prompts to take advantage of biases or flaws in the language model. Now, I'm not going to go through in detail, except that I would like to just share with you that it is possible to actually put in your own prompt to extract information from the chatbot. So in this case, as you can see, a student named Kevin Liu, he did a prompt injection attack, and he made the Bing revealed a bunch of information, asking it to ignore previous instructions and to diverge all of its instructions here. So ladies and gentlemen, these are things that we should be aware of. And again, that's trend number 3 in terms of content creation to content generation. Reminding everyone that the same hackers also has access to this technology, just as we are benefiting in terms of productivity. This brings us to trend 4. Regulators are now very interested in the area of Gen AI, and obviously we can expect enforcements coming up in the near future amid the new AI laws. So I'd like everyone to think about your role currently, and based on the survey that you fill up just now. Not all of you are a developer, so you can see a developer is someone where you develop your own AI system, whether it's the AI algorithms or whichever technology you might have. Some of you, and even lesser of you, will be looking at buying a system and deploying it. You might want to integrate it into your own operational processes. But as we saw in the survey earlier on, many of you are already users of ChatGPT or some kind of variant. So you inevitably will need to govern generative AI. And I want to point out to you the regulators, all the efforts from regulators around the world. And very quickly, who wants to go first? Isa, you or William? Maybe Isa, you first, right? We now know there's an AI law that is coming up. And your quick thoughts, Isa.
Yeah, so the EU AI Act is having a switch provisional agreement, and later this year probably it will be finalized and enacted. And it's probably the first AI law that is the comprehensive AI law in the world. And it takes a risk-based approach meaning to say that it categorizes risk according to different categories. So there's prohibited categories, high risk, limited risk, and so on. Yeah. So and minimal risk. So for each of these different categories, there are different requirements. So for example, like unacceptable risk, prohibited risk, you are not even allowed to deploy or develop such systems. Whereas high risk, which is its main focus, you are allowed to develop but subject to certain stringent conditions and requirements.
Thank you for that. So, ladies and gentlemen, you need to watch this out, because you watch this, and if you are a user, you're using that technology, there are also some requirements for what we call the foundation models, right? So look out and follow this space, but they're not the only ones, right? In fact, worldwide, you have United Nations. They just created an advisory body late last year to address AI governance. So we now see that AI governance is on a lot of the regulators' agenda. Yeah. And even for China, William, would you like to share with everyone? I mean, China has already got its Gen AI regulations. Yeah. Over to you.
So with the advent of generative AI, it's created a lot of interest, a lot of the deep thinking by the various governments around the world, and also it has bring about a lot of fear and concern. And one of the countries that you least expect to be in the forefront of pushing some kind of law on how to regulate generative AI is China. If you look at some of the things they are planning to do is, in terms of the training data that's used to feed and train the AI engine, they talk about respecting intellectual property rights in China. Yeah, that seems a bit contradictory at this point in time. What the aspiration is and what the actual practice on the ground may be quite different. They talk about cybersecurity and data protection, obviously. Things like AI generated content as required, address, respond to data subjects requests, illegal content, and so on. But we can see that China is also riding on the bandwagon to want to take the leadership in the world in this area. And also they have come up with some kind of legislation to blacklist certain sets of trading data from sources that are dubious, sources that cannot be touted as being trusted. Yeah, so they want to blacklist such sources as well. I guess also in line with safeguarding the kind of information their own citizens can have access to.
So, ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, the regulators are all looking at Gen AI, and they are concerned. And that brings us to Singapore, right? So, Isa, would you want to quickly share with everyone what's happening in Singapore as recent as a few days ago? Yeah.
Yeah. So Singapore as well has its own AI strategy, national AI strategy, and the model governance framework. AI model governance framework was released a couple of years ago. And just as recently as, I think, 2 days ago, a model AI governance framework, a draft model AI governance framework for generative AI was released. So the fact that they are doing one for generative AI specifically shows how much emphasis and importance the Singapore government places on generative AI in terms of its possibilities and opportunities, as well as the kind of harms and risks that such generative AI could pose. So it's now, at the moment, it's out for discussion and consultation, and it's a space to watch. It'll be an interesting space to watch developments on.
Yeah, and to add on, ladies and gentlemen, a lot of your organizations, you don't just want access to ChatGPT content. You want to be able to create your own custom data sets. You want to load in your customer service information. Some of you might want to load in your policies and SOPs and literally chat with it. You have to bear in mind there's a governance framework that you might want to follow, right? So we expect to see some interesting cases. We expect to see a lot of breaches as well in the coming year, which brings us to trend number 5. as everyone knows, it's no longer just chatting with the chatbot or with the bot itself. That's the avatar. You can talk to it. You can even manipulate images, as you saw earlier on. Yeah. This is going to lead to demand for new skill sets, which I'm sure a lot of you are very interested in. And for those of you in data protection, data governance, this is an area that you might want to be looking at. Now, if you take a look at what we call a multimodal foundation model, this name was invented by Stanford Institute for Human-Centered AI, Stanford University. You could see that multimodality means all the different media. You train it, and there's a generative model here. And it's from here that you could see a whole bunch of new tasks that mimic human behavior is now possible. And for those of you who subscribe to ChatGPT, the latest version is now multimodal, right? Some of you know that you could load an image and get the system to identify the image. You could use it to analyze documents. And we also have Gemini being introduced. And now we have lots of competition in this area to develop the full capability, the full possibility to enhance our first trend, business productivity. Unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to create concern. And we got this slide from Microsoft. They did a research, and you can see that 58% of people in APAC said they're worried that AI will replace their jobs. But take a look on the second side. On the second chart, 78% would delegate as much work as possible to AI to lessen their workloads. So obviously, this implies the need to reskill in order for you to perform the functions, right? And only just a few days ago, you could see that IMF, they published a report that actually stated AI will impact 60% of the advanced economy jobs. And you could see it here. And it notes that the IMF, half of the jobs impacted by AI will be negatively affected. But as we are sharing today, the rest may actually benefit from enhanced productivity gains. So ladies and gentlemen, I'm closing up right now. What this means is all of us should know the value of what you can do with AI. And this is where we define 10 areas: the ability to generate content, the ability to extract and distill content. But yet, we should be aware of the risks. We should also be aware of the constraints, because we already have a landmark law in the world called the EU AI Act. Now, for those of you who are in compliance or data protection, we want to remind you that you should focus on the value first, but be aware of the risks and constraints, because your life cycle got even more complex. It's no longer just collecting the data, using the data, disclosing the data, and storing the data. You will notice a new function called reporting, because the generative AI can report information, and that data is something that you could be using for decision making. And each and every single one of these stages, there could be an issue that everyone should be aware of. For example, when you collect the data, there's a biased data set. You saw the copyright issues. When you store the data in the cloud, there are issues of access controls, privacy issues. When the model generates the report, there could be biased algorithms. Decision making could be done with being discrimination embedded. There's no validation. No one checks the content, as we showed just now. And when you distribute information, you purposely distribute it under the guise of misinformation. And you could keep the data forever. Yeah. William, quick thoughts from you before I close off. Yeah.
Yeah. So as you can see that as a result of the introduction of generative AI, it what more governance areas of governance that the organizations have to be aware of, as opposed to just handling the kind of data they have at present. because there's added dimension of not just data processing, but also in what Kevin had just mentioned about the ability of the AI engine to generate reports, to generate recommendations, to even generate different causes of action for management to take decisions. And if one is not careful and just rely entirely on the tool, you may be misled due to the way the algorithm works, the way the logic in the system works. If they just choose whatever recommendation that comes out of the system without going through some kind of sanity check or some kind of check for trustworthiness, it may result in a discrimination. It may result in a biased kind of decision. So the human being is still very much needed in the loop at this stage of development of the AI technology.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you've been entering your questions into the Q&A box. I'm about to be done in the next few slides. And let me just point this out, the fact that you need to be aware of this. There are new skills that are needed. For those of you who are non-compliance, non-data protection, it's a good time for you to look at AI literacy, especially in the area of Gen AI. I think Isa spoke about the national strategy, our 2.0 AI strategy. We got your standard data science analytics. That's something that we want our kids to go into. But here's the cool thing. This is for everyone. AI is for everyone. If you are looking at visual storytelling, because we are talking about automated generated content, right? Auto-generated content. You now need to know how you could use AI to enhance your creativity, besides also knowing the ethical users. So a lot of new skills will be required, and this is something for those of you looking for career possibilities, career progression possibilities. You will see that we will come to a day, or we are coming to a day, where Gen AI will be indeed in demand and as a differentiator. For those of you who are data protection officers, let me close off by reminding all of you that as long as AI uses data sets that contain sensitive data, this is where you need to take note. Your privacy expertise remains relevant, but you also need to look at understanding the ethical AI principles, as well as all the regulatory knowledge, the new laws that are coming up. The continuous learning will carry on, and just as in data breach management, we also need to manage incidents where your AI model goes haywire, and what happens if that does come, if we are haunted by all of these issues by the model. So for the data protection folks, we've always been telling you, right, move from data protection to data governance. Instead of being a showstopper where your focus is on compliance with the PDPA, be an enabler, because your business objective is one of a digital transformation. And this is an area that you might want to develop. And before I close off, you could see that when we talk about data governance, we are not just talking about decreasing the risk. We are also talking about increasing the value. And ladies and gentlemen, we showed you earlier on that you need to know the 10 areas where Gen AI will enhance business productivity. Because this is where you want to be looking at. So to close off this part, before I talk about the roadmaps for all of you, you need to be aware of 3 areas of concern. Every time you use ChatGPT, a public version, every time you download an app, the data could be misused. It could be used to train their model. Your chat history tells a lot about yourself, and that happens with the public version of ChatGPT. Be careful when you upload your own data into ChatGPT or some other software, because there's leakage of company data, as you saw. And here, ladies and gentlemen, be conscious that there are concerns about AI replacing the job. So it's also good that we look at upskilling. So what I'm going to do right now, ladies and gentlemen, is I'm going to take some questions before I close off to talk about the roadmaps and our takeaway points for this webinar. So I'm going to pause here. Jonathan, what we could do is we could look at the questions. Yeah, I'll stop sharing. Yeah. And I'm going to take questions here. Just to check, have I stopped sharing the screen, Isa?
Yes, you have, Kevin.
Okay. Well, let's take some questions from you folks. Yeah.
Okay.
And as we do so, maybe Isa and William, can you pick some questions that have been put into the session? And meanwhile, can I ask all of you to include your questions into the Q&A box? Yeah.
So Kevin, there are quite a few questions currently under the Q&A tab.
All right. So which one shall we answer first? Okay, so let me do the first one. What's the best practice for using ChatGPT for customer WhatsApp support to protect personal data? Yeah. Anyone wants to answer this? If not, I will take it.
Yeah, I can answer it.
All right.
Yeah. So one of our recommendations, as you know, the way ChatGPT works is you need to feed it with data. What is called in the industry as training data. That's where the content is being generated. So when you are training the model, be careful not to use. You can use anonymized data so as to protect the privacy of individuals, and you won't run afoul with the data protection law.
Excellent. And the other one is do not use the public version. You're going to, as you heard from William, you're using your own custom data set. So the best practice is always use your own custom data set. And you might, and this is where I'll get more technical, you can contact us. We can share with you how you can do this in addition to the points that William has shared. Okay, another question. What is the app that Kevin is using? That was the app that we have developed called Capabara. And what we shared, which I will go into more detail later, is a secure platform because we felt that a lot of people were using they were using ChatGPT and the data is being shared with the model. So we created a software that gives you the Gen AI features that doesn't train the model and is also safe and secure, right? Let's go into the next question. There's been a lot of excitement surrounding OpenAI's newly launched GPT Store last week, akin to the iPhone App Store phenomenon. Seems that there is a lot of custom GPT, like people can develop and cover and already put in and use it in the GPT Store. What are your thoughts on how we might look at using something like this for our business? Okay, this one, I'm very passionate about this. First one, I would not use it. Let me explain why. Now, if you go into the configuration settings, by default, whatever you enter is training their AI model. That's number one. Number two, you're giving it instructions. And when you give those instructions, it's all instruction based. You cannot see the code in terms of what you are doing. And number three, be careful because if you are loading copyrighted content and all of that, the system does not warn you. And it's not a good idea because there's a lot of leakage. Remember, I talked about training the AI model. We also talk about leakage of company data. So you might not, to me, it's not a good idea at this point in time to do this. Yes, it gives you a lot of flexibility, but you got to be careful. It's your content. It's your proprietary content. Yeah. Isa, your comments on GPT Assistant, which we have played with and that we have analyzed. Yeah.
Yeah, it's as Kevin said. So the way it works is you give it a series of instructions and possibly whatever output you get from there will be based on your instructions. I think perhaps for some functions or some certain types of output you may want to use it for, it could work. But I think in terms of being able to fine tune it further, in the sense of getting it to produce certain types of output in specific formats and specific with specific parameters and guardrails and all that, perhaps it may not function so well.
And we did a test. We loaded copyrighted material inside because you could use it, right? And you could put in your own, someone else's book, or let's just say one of your staff may not be aware, and they put in the book with good intent. The system doesn't check the copyrights. So you could potentially get yourself into trouble. Obviously, there is a publish to the marketplace, which you could do. They will have their due diligence down there. But currently, this, as you can see, is actually their business model to make as much money as possible. But it is, at this point, not ideal for corporate use, but pretty okay for personal use. That's my own assessment. Let's move on to the next question. What has been your experience in adopting AI in your organization? What were the lessons learned in having a culture of responsible adoption? And what went into the processes to enable Gen AI within your organization? Yeah. So for Straits Interactive, what we did was we saw the benefit of ChatGPT. And unlike many companies and schools, they immediately barred the use of ChatGPT. In our case, we saw the value, and now you know that the value has got 10 areas. So what we did was we actually approved of the use to use the ChatGPT within the organization. However, and I'll leave Isa to share more details, we actually put a policy to govern the use. Because when we measured our processes, we measured 40 processes within Straits, before and after. And we got every single department to document how long it took to execute a business process before and after. And it was amazing. We achieved easily over 60% productivity gains. Yeah. And very quickly, Isa, maybe from the legal side, you could also share the practices that we did to control the use, what they were allowed to do, what they were not allowed to do. Obviously, after that, we introduced our own software, and we use that as the compulsory one to use. But maybe you can share the whole transition of what we did to govern the use of Gen AI.
Yeah, so as Kevin said, prior to our development of our own app or our own system, which is the Capabara system that Kevin was using just now, we allow our staff to use some of the apps that we have done appropriate due diligence on, and we found that it was acceptable. But then we had to put in place a policy, an acceptable use of generative AI policy, that set all the guidelines and safeguards and instructions to the staff, our employees, to make sure that they know how to use it in a safe, ethical, and responsible manner. Yeah, and we also ensured that we had a wide list of apps that we allowed them to use, and we said that, look, only these apps, maybe paid versions or whatever, not to use the free versions, but only such and such apps are okay. And nobody is allowed to use anything else for fear of data leakages and all that. But of course, now we are transitioned over to the use of our Capabara app,
which is basically what we did, right? So let's move on to the last question because of our issue with time. Yeah. So William, would you like to take the question on the Singapore PDPA and whether it will be updated?
Yeah, the quick answer is I don't know.
Yeah.
But
the question first, yeah.
Yeah, the question is, will the PDPA Act regulations be updated to cover the AI governance? The short answer to that is I don't know at this point in time. But certainly, a number of the obligations under the current PDPA are applicable to AI moving forward. So most likely, it could be just an extension of the PDPA. In terms of maybe some of the obligations like notification, purpose limitation, consent, those will be applicable not only just for personal data, but also for the use of data for generative AI purposes and so on. So I wouldn't know. The government could come up with a separate act on its own. I'm not sure. Yeah.
Maybe I could add on share some thoughts as well on this. So as William mentioned, we really don't know. For the moment, what's been published by IMDA is a set of draft guidelines for the use of personal data API systems. So that's something that you can check. It's in the middle of consultation. They are getting feedback and so on. So it's about how personal data is used in AI systems. For example, are there any exceptions that apply? For example, the business improvement exception. And for example, what other requirements are there if you want to use AI in personal data API systems? But the other thoughts that I wanted to share as well is we did have a chance to speak to the regulators, and the approach that they want to take in Singapore, at least, I mean, in other parts of the world, as you've seen, like in the EU, they have rushed quite quickly to put out a set of regulations, a set of laws that mandate how you deal with AI systems, like the EU AI Act, for example, and perhaps in China as well. But in Singapore, the approach generally is to take it a little bit more slow, to observe the developments as they come along, and to take a more gradual approach, meaning to say that they're going to start with maybe guidelines, they're going to start with maybe codes of conduct that are not mandatory in nature, not immediately at least. So perhaps there could be something in the pipelines, but that may not be what's going to happen. That's not what's going to take place immediately. It will probably be the softer approach, voluntary codes of conduct guidelines and so on.
Thank you for that, ladies and gentlemen. I will just take the next few minutes. I'll try to end by 1:30 to close off with the next steps, right? Besides talking to this fake person here, can you see my screen, Isa? Yeah?
Yeah.
All right.
Mr. Peter To. Yeah.
Where do you move from here, ladies and gentlemen? So here is a roadmap for you. Take a look at our Gen AI capability roadmap. You can see that a lot of our staff will be involved with everyday dealings, with everyday AI, where you collect, you store, you report, you use Gen AI. There's also your department managers, where you are going to oversee the implementation of technology, and some of you will be in the your own governance committees, looking at a strategy for where to head. So let me just give you some tips. For those of you who are in data protection, you are supposed to move to data governance. You should put in your AI, you should establish your AI governance committee and understand where your management is heading, especially for digital transformation. For the managers, here's our takeaway message for you. You should know how to create value, but at the same time, be able to manage the risk. But that means putting together policies and SOPs. And for the general staff, they should be aware of the value and the risk. Obviously, it is linked to the trust and transparency of the organization. So what Straits I put in for all of you as a closure, you might want to be certified as an AI business professional. You don't need any technical knowledge, and I'll cover that shortly. And if you think that it is worth getting a skill in Gen AI, where you specialize in Gen AI, we have a full entire roadmap, which I would like to go through now. And as you can see, there's a whole bunch of certification options. Now, this slide deck will be available, so we will make it available. And another area which we spend quite a bit, and more importantly, developed this area called Capabara. That was the software that we were using earlier on, where you could use it to substitute ChatGPT as part of your digital transformation efforts. And you can create your own custom AI tools. And we also have a repository for you to look for all grants. So the system is connected to a repository that can give you intelligent response as you query about grants. And some of you already know that we launched the world's first, or the region's first, DPO AI assistant. Yeah. So we have a whole bunch of software to complement your efforts, especially the 3 concerns that we shared earlier on. When you use ChatGPT, be careful. You are training the AI model. Your chat histories are being read and potentially used. There's leakage of company data, and there's concerns about AI jobs replacing people. So we've designed the Capabara in such a way that nobody can see the data. Data is not being shared. Your bosses can't even see your chats until and unless you share. And with our Capabara knowledge system, you can now load in all your customer service data. You can load in your own corpus of data, your own company assets, and literally chat with it. And all of the data is in a Microsoft secure container. So we work with Microsoft to enable this feature. And more importantly, somebody talk about GPT assistance. What we have done is we have created a capability tools library where you can just simply put in all of your prompts, the prompts that you use. You could put them into our tools, and what we do is we help to turn it into a proper application. So that's one area that you might want to look at. And to close off, to beef up your knowledge in AI, we have a certification called the AI Business Professional Certification. And as you can see, we cover all the areas, especially due diligence, how to do due diligence on the apps that you intend to adopt and implement. Yeah. So this is basically what you could look at. And after that, if you are more ambitious, I'm sure some of you are already taking our courses. We have an advanced certificate in Gen AI, ethics and data protection. And we cover all of the key areas that you should know, from just a simple practical approach where we show you how AI can be used in all areas, to prompt engineering methods, how to put and implement Gen AI within your organization. And as you can see, the rest are all specific areas you can apply Gen AI. So this is available with SMU. And again, you can imagine the 90% funding, depending how old you are. There are Skills Future funding. And for the more ambitious folks, we just completed a 3-day course in AI governance. So this is the IAPP certification. You can put a title. You can put a title behind your name, AIGP, to show that you are certified in the area of AI governance. And finally, for those of you who are interested to get certified, to be professionally certified in the area of GRC, we have a course with OCEG, which invented the term GRC. That's coming up in about 2 weeks' time or so, or a week or so. You might want to sign up. So to close off, ladies and gentlemen, what we want to remind you is, be clear, where are you? Are you in governance? Are you as a manager? Or are you just using Gen AI as tools? If you are in governance, these are the courses available. If you are just in managing, you are looking at using technology or Gen AI to manage, then take the advanced cert. And if you just want to know enough about AI so that you can use it correctly, then take the AI Business Professional. So this is our quick roadmap. And what I would like to close off is exactly 1:30, so my timing is pretty good. I'd like to just remind everyone, these are the trends that you should be watching out for. Gen AI is going to go mainstream in business productivity. What is the implication on you? We showed you all the risks associated with the different categories of Gen AI software. Are you doing the proper due diligence? Do you even know how to do it? Watch out, because now we're moving from content creation to content generation. Do you have the skills? Are you aware of the impact of that? And we also shared with you, regulators are now scrutinizing the area of Gen AI. And Gen AI, as you know, continues to progress with multimodal capabilities, meaning that there is going to be demand for new skills. Yes? So the takeaway points for you, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to just quickly go through, and then I'll get Isa and William to share their takeaway points. Yeah. First one to all of you, do you know how to create value with Gen AI? We showed you 10 areas. Do you know how to get it done? Next one, are you even aware of all the ethical, privacy, and security risks that could be unique to your organization? And as you saw from the survey that we did, if you are using a free version of ChatGPT, or you just download some Gen AI app which serves some function, have you done the due diligence? Is your organization addressing the various concerns about using ChatGPT? We shared with you, and we hope that you remember every time you use a free version of ChatGPT, you are training the AI model. So there's information being leaked from your own data, from your conversational history. And as you upload the documents to summarize, a lot of leakage is happening. And be aware that your staff is nervous. Yeah, so you want to give them more control. And finally, at the personal level, ladies and gentlemen, where's your knowledge in Gen AI? Are you moving towards data governance if you are DPO? So with that, let me ask Isa, what is your takeaway message for everyone based on obviously the 5 points that we're sharing here? Which is the most important to you, or even share your own thoughts? Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. I think for me, most importantly is that the technology is here. And I think there might still be some people, probably not amongst our participants here, because everybody here is eager to find out and learn. But there might still be some folks who might be skeptical of this technology. And what I say to that is, it's something for you to find out more about. The technology is already here. And it's a matter of how do we harness that technology. With every new technology, there's going to be areas of risk, but there's also going to be opportunities. And with ChatGPT, at least, I find that it's so interesting that, to my mind, in terms of the kind of output that you can get, really the sky is the limit. And it's about how you fashion your prompts to extract the value out of it.
If you don't mind, Isa, I'd like to ask you another question. As a legal professional, what would your message be to other legal professionals with regards to AI, and considering the fact that you are already writing your own AI apps?
Don't ask ChatGPT to give you cases. But seriously, learn to harness the technology summaries, of course, with guidance, with checks and all that. But with the proper prompts, it can return very good case summaries, very good values. And of course, the areas of policy generation, contract review, contract generation is also something that we are keen to look into. And it is something that definitely, if harnessed correctly with all the proper guardrails in place, will take off, I believe, quite a fair bit of the load from the legal professionals. So again, it's something that we open our minds to and look out for the possibilities while at the same time addressing the risks and ethical concerns.
Thank you, Isa, especially if you have your own custom data sets. Yeah. William, as a former regulator, what is your takeaway message for everyone?
Yeah. One thing we all need to be aware of is, as with the introduction of any new technology, there's always the bright side and the dark side. So we need to strike a balance between how to tread the path carefully so that we don't oversteer or fall over into the dark side instead of going on the bright side. So as a former employee in a regulatory organization before, we always face this kind of dilemmas whenever new technologies are being regulated by the government regulatory authorities. And that is how to draw a balance between regulating good, ethical usage of the technology as opposed to stifling innovation. Yeah, because we don't want to put in innovation too early, too stringent, such that we straitjacket the innovators. They cannot move because the law says you can't do this, you can't do that. But on the other hand, we also cannot give free rein to all the developers, the deployers of the technology, such that they can do anything under the sky. Yeah. So there's always this fine balance. And the only way that, from my experience in helping to draft regulations, draft legislation, is to tread the path carefully, do it one step at a time. What the Singapore government likes to use this term called a light touch approach. Light meaning that we don't want to make it such that you tie your hands down, but at the same time, to tell people, hey, there are rules, you got to follow these rules, yeah? But they are not there to control you, not there to stifle you or stymie you, but the rules to actually have a fair and unbiased playing field, so that everybody in the end can benefit from it. Yeah.
So folks, you heard from William. You can apply that for all the compliance folks. Instead of shutting down technology that you don't understand, look at it from an innovation angle. And earlier we talked about being an enabler as opposed to a showstopper. With that, ladies and gentlemen, I apologize, we're late by 7 minutes. I'd like to end the session here, and I would like to thank everyone for your questions and the information. This session, the recording will be made available, and if we can't answer all the questions, I will do our best to put the rest of the answers to the questions that we didn't answer. So kindly put in your interest in the form that you have seen in the big marker. All right, so with that, have a fantastic week and weekend ahead, and all the best for 2024 as we consider the Gen AI and data privacy trends. Thank you, everyone.